Okay everybody, so this is going to be part 2 of the 1998 Chevrolet 4BT conversion in a K1500. I wanted to step back and kind of go back over a little bit. I didn't touch base on the last video, but on what we did with the rocker panels and the cab corners and also the wheel wells on the back. I had mentioned that we had replaced all that, which we did. I did something totally different this time on this truck. I've done 2 different trucks prior to this one. I always welded in the panels, and if anybody's welded in panels, it takes forever. Time you cut it out, and then you lay the new panel up there, and then you scribe that panel, and then you go back in and cut that line, and then you lay your new panel in place, and then you go down through there and you spot weld those whole panels, one spot weld at a time, and it takes a long time. Time you go through and spot weld it, then come back through and then you grind it off, and then you come back in and fill in the spots that you missed. It is very time consuming. And also, when you do your cab corners, you have to pull your bed to do the cab corners. But let me tell you what I did this on my son's truck this time, and it was fantastic, and I will definitely do it again one day. I actually used a slip-on panel. It's very similar to your regular rocker panels and your cab corners and any other panel that you do, but they do call it a slip-on panel just because of the fact that basically you take your new panel and you lay it up on your truck just like you normally would when you weld in a new panel, and you would take your scribe and you'd scribe that line, and then you would go in and cut that. Well, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to lay that panel up there, you're going to lay your cab corner up there, or whatever piece of body that you're going to be replacing on your sheet metal. You're going to go ahead and scribe that line, but you're going to do something different. What you're going to do is you're going to measure down about 1 inch from where that scribe line is, and you're going to take a I got a little 90-degree angle grinder. It's got these little scuff pads on it. You get like different grips, 40, 60, 80 grit. And you're going to take that 1 inch now, and you're going to grind that down to bare metal. Then you take your slip-on panel and you flip it over on the back side, and you measure down about 1 inch, and you grind that off to bare metal as well. So then, this is what I use right here. It's a regular caulking gun. It's a high tensile strength epoxy. Gluezilla is the name of it. I actually bought this at Gander Mountain. They had it in their marine section. It's very durable for water, steel, wood, plastics, fiberglass, anything that you want to do. And it is a 2-part epoxy. On the cap itself, it has a little plunger that comes out. If I can get it out of here, probably can't, but this comes out, and this tube is split in 2. You've got one side is 1-part epoxy and the other side is 2-part epoxy. And then you buy this little nozzle, they're like $1. They screw on here, and then it actually mixes it as you apply it on your sheet metal. They also make a brand that you've seen or probably heard of. It's called Panel Bond. The automotive industry uses it. It's a very large caulk gun, about double the size of this, maybe a little bit longer. It's about 80 bucks just for the caulk gun, and that doesn't include the epoxy. So what's nice about this, it goes in any standard caulk gun. You've got a 2-part epoxy, very high tensile strength, and it's very durable, and it worked awesome for me. Basically what you'll do is you'll go down on the truck part that you've ground down the metal about that inch, and you'll spread this around. And then I took a little brush just like this, and then I just worked this epoxy all the way along that bare metal. And then you take your new panel that you ordered, and you'll do the same thing to that. And then what's nice is you'll take your new panel and you'll lay it up there, and you've got a couple different options. Where that inch overlap is, you can either screw some really tiny sheet metal screws in there to snug it in place, or like I did, took some pop rivets and pop rivet in place. What is really nice about this epoxy is everybody knows that when you go in and you spot weld in a panel, even though I've used a 3M product, it's called Weld Through Primer. 3M makes it. You'll spray all of that area, lay your panel up there, and then you'll still weld it. But everybody knows that some of that weld through primer is going to burn off, and then you're going to start having some rust issues. With this epoxy, you're covering every piece of bare metal that there is, and at the same time, when you lay your new piece of panel up there, you're going to sandwich that, squeeze out any excess epoxy. Then you can either pop rivet it or screw it. Once it sets, this Gluezilla sets in about 30 minutes. You can take those screws out, take those pop rivets out, and then go back through and put some body filler in there. My cab corners on this K1500, I was able to do it without pulling the bed, and it was fantastic. It actually turned out great, and I will definitely do it again, so keep that in mind. So also talked about the Herculiner. This is the Herculiner. I actually bought this at O'Reilly's. I think it was about $65 a gallon. We was able to do the tops of the beds, the whole bottom of the truck itself, and we also did the inside of the tailgate and the back side of the tailgate, and I still have some material left. And this is an awesome product. I've tried, I think it's Duraliner in the past, but let me tell you, for an item that you can take, it's extremely thick and it has a lot of texture to it. It is fantastic, and I would recommend this to anybody. I've got a 1971 Jeepster Commando that I totally redid, and I'll probably have that on a video here sometime in the near future. But I did the whole inside of the Jeep with this. The whole back side, the inside, and also the bumpers, and I did some other areas on there, and I'll show that to you in the future. But this is fantastic. You ought to try to use this sometime. It's great. So, getting back to the motor, we have got our parts in. We have got our Summit Racing. This is where I bought these parts from. We've got our billet aluminum adapter plate. This is an adapter plate for the Turbo 350. The 700R4, the 4L60E, the 4L65E, and the 4L80E. And also this will actually bolt up to the GM NV4500 get rag is what they call that. It's a 5-speed manual transmission. Okay, very heavy. Looks good so far. We've already test fitted it, and it's worked out pretty good. This right here is basically the alignment pin that, once we took it off, actually kind of pulled out a little bit on the engine, but that is not a big deal. This right here is the flex plate. This is for your automatic transmission. What is nice about Summit, guys, is that a lot of the manufacturers that sell these will not have the correct bolt pattern for the 4L60E. Okay, on the torque converter, there's 3 bolts. Along with the 350 and the 700R4, there's 3 bolts. If I'm not mistaken, the 4L80E has 4 bolts, or 6, I'm sorry, 6. It is, if you buy one from D-Stroked or some other companies, you're gonna have to lay your torque converter up here. You're gonna have to take it somewhere and or have a drill press and drill your holes to get it aligned properly. This here is ready to go. And actually through Summit, this was the cheapest place to purchase it from. Along with the Summit adapter plates, we also came with everything that you need to make this happen. You've got your adapter plate bolts. You've got your starter bolts for your 2003, 2006 F250 6.0 Power Stroke. And then also you've got your flex plate bolts already go. Okay. The starter, I bought that from O'Reilly. It is for a 2003, 2006 Ford F250 with the 6.0 Power Stroke. And we've already done a little bit of work to the motor this evening. The one thing that you're going to have to do is this right here. Okay. As you can see, this is the area in which I took off. This right here goes right there. And the reason that you do that, we're going to show you here in a minute, is that is clearance for your starter once your starter goes up there. Okay? So we've ground that down, we've got that test fitted, and we should be good to go there. And we're getting ready to mount the adapter plate on, so hang on a second. Alright, so this is what we use to actually coat this off. We just take your regular angle grinder. You got two different, you got a cutoff wheel and a grinder wheel. We put this on, we just basically just went down through here and cut this section off. And then we went back through the grinder and we just kind of ground this down a little bit. Now, something to keep in mind is you got a bolt hole right here. All right. These are going to be torqued down to about 45 foot-pounds, but you want to make sure that you leave enough material on there that way you don't compromise the strength of that. And that's what we did. So we got that ready to go, and we'll see about getting this thing on. Good idea to have a rubber mallet. Once you get this in place, you can kind of tap it in place. Get it in there. One thing that you do want to do, you want to make sure that it's clean on the back side of that. And also take you some Scotch-Brite pad, kind of get your crankshaft down nice and smooth. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put just a tad bit of this blue thread lock on there, and we'll get these done. Basically, you just want to make sure that you don't have to come back in here and or it starts vibrating or loose a little bit, and then you got to pull your whole engine out to get everything back in place. So better to be safe than sorry. And you don't want to use red, just because of the fact that it's definitely going to take a lot more strength to get that off. Main thing is take your time, and different companies sell different items out there. So I was very well pleased with the Summit Racing technical line. Those guys did a great job, really helped me out, and kind of took me through the process of everything that I needed. So it worked out really good. All right, so what we're doing is we're just going to go through and check all these, make sure that they're good at 45 foot-pounds. If you don't have this, then just draw them in really tight, best you can. And then on this one here, this here's a Allen head bolt, and we're just going to get that nice and tight, and we should be good. All right, so next thing what we're going to do here is we're going to get out our flex plate bolts. Once again, we got that from Summit Racing. It actually came with a kit. As you come and get your adapter plate, you get your flex plate, you'll see these options once you buy that. What's nice about it is they do have free shipping over anything over, I believe it's $100. So basically you're going to take your flex plate here, lay that there, go ahead and line these up. Lock tight. Get those ready. And I tell you, if anybody tries it, if you want to YouTube it, look at Panel Bond on YouTube. They have some really good vids on that, and kind of takes you through a little bit step by step how to do that. At the time I didn't think about recording all this, but just thought I'd do it just because of the fact that my son and I would just been working together on it, and there'll be a video for him in the future too. And I think it'd be great. So any dads out there want to spend some time with their kids, I tell you what, one of the best things you can do is get out there, and once they get their first vehicle, especially if you're going to do something a little crazy like we are, you can spend a lot of time with them and teach them something all at the same time. So very awesome. So I'm going to put this on. What's nice about the Summit is it comes with pretty much explanatory paperwork on what to do, and takes all the guesswork out of it. I think the only thing that I had to do was find the torque specs for the adapter plate and also for the flex plate. There's some companies, they do offer this, but then you got to buy a flex ring that goes in between your torque converter, and some of them are, you got to know what size it is. So that was something that I talked to with the technical support guys at Summit, was what all do I need, walk me through the process. And I bet the guys spent probably 30 minutes on the phone kind of just going through. They've got some reviews on this product online as well on their website. Kind of take you through step by step on that. So our main goal this week is to test fire this engine. I had to drive about 4 hours away to get this engine. We had been looking, and it seems like when I saw an engine that I needed, it wasn't anywhere close, and my schedule didn't line up. But this one here worked out good for my schedule, and I was able to get it back when in the summer when I needed to. My son and I took a road trip and went and picked it up. I bought it as a non-running 4BT, guys. So there's some out there that you can get them running, and you know what you got. Basically, I was able to buy this engine for about half of what they was going for on the open market, just because of the fact that couldn't get started. And crossed my fingers and brought it home, tore it down. Luckily, we was in good shape and was able to get things back on track. So there's always that possibility of buying a lemon and then you're stuck with it. So it worked out pretty decent for me. So what we're gonna do is gonna go through here and kind of snug this down by hand, kind of get it where we need it to be, and then we'll torque it down to the proper foot-pounds. This right here, this ring, I thought maybe that you would flip this around. This here sits basically right up inside the cup of the torque converter, and it allows the bolts, as the torque converter comes in, it'll actually sit inside this little dish. This will go up inside the torque converter on the outside. It's got a little recessed area, and then your bolts basically will go right place where it needs to be. So kind of tell the story of why we're doing this. Like I said, it's not because it's something new. As everybody well aware of, if you buy a half-ton pickup truck and you got a 16-year-old son that drives it, you're going to go through a lot of gas, and that's going to take a lot of money. So I'm building this basically for fuel economy for him. It's going to have basically, we are going to do a little bit of upgrades. I think I had mentioned before, we're going to do the 3200 governor spring. We're going to upgrade on the fuel pin, and I think with those two mods, I think the fuel pin is going to up it maybe around 45 force, something like that. Just do a very mild fuel pin. So we're going to probably be looking right at 150, 160 horse. And then if you want to put in different injectors, you can probably get another 40 off of that. So you'd probably be pushing up around, 190, 200. But this little engine right here is going to be, like I said, it's going to put out just basically the same amount of foot-pounds of torque at only 1600 RPMs. So that's amazing in itself versus a 350 that you really have to get the RPMs up high enough to ensure that you get your foot-pounds of torque. So you've got this right off the bat, and it's going to be, like I said, we're looking for fuel economy. We're not looking for horsepower. Probably the biggest thing he's going to be pulling is a small John boat with a trailer. He does like to bow fish, he likes to duck hunt, and we do like to do some fishing and jugging every once in a while. So fuel economy is number one. So, all right, so we'll get ready to get this thing torqued down. What we're going to do is go ahead and mount the starter on there. This bolt goes in here like this, and I went ahead and put plenty of anti-seize on this due to the fact that it's easier to do it now than when it's all bound up in there. We are putting steel into aluminum, and to prevent that from going up and having some corrosion issues later on, it's better off to just go ahead and treat it while you got it all set, ready to go. Everybody's wondering what all the stuff is on my jacket. My son and I, we go rabbit hunting, and this is one of my rabbit hunting. I got enough seeds and briars on this thing to replant the forest, I believe.